to the task? We would soon find out.
But don't be fooled, folks.
Spectacle. Towering giants with sculpted physiques step into the ring, their muscles glistening under the lights as crowds roar with anticipation. In a division where intimidation is often half the battle, fighters who look the part frequently command respect before a single punch is thrown. But every once in a while, a fighter arrives who shatters that illusion completely. A fighter who reminds the world that boxing is not a bodybuilding contest, it's a fight. Andy Ruiz Jr. was never supposed to look like a heavyweight destroyer. With his round physique, soft frame, and laid-back demeanor, Ruiz looked more like someone who wandered into the arena by accident rather than a man who could dismantle elite fighters. But appearances can be deceiving. And in boxing, underestimating the wrong opponent can be catastrophic. Because once the bell rings, none of that matters. What matters is speed, precision, power, and the ability to land the punch that changes everything. Andy Ruiz Jr. had all of it. Long before the world knew his name, Ruiz was quietly carving out a reputation as one of the most dangerous young heavyweights in the sport. Born in Mexicali, Mexico, and raised in California, he represented something unique in the boxing world. He carried the pride of two cultures, two identities, and two boxing traditions. And eventually, he would become the first heavyweight champion of Mexican descent, a historic milestone in a sport deeply connected to Mexican heritage. But that legendary moment was still years away. First, Ruiz had to prove himself the hard way. Every fighter's professional journey begins with stepping stones, opponents meant to test a young prospect while allowing them to build confidence. For Ruiz, one of those early tests came against a struggling fighter named Luis Lopez. On paper, Lopez had little to offer. He had yet to win a professional bout, and most observers expected the fight to be nothing more than another routine victory for the rising heavyweight prospect. But boxing rarely goes exactly as planned. When the fight began, Ruiz wasted no time establishing his presence. Wearing blue and black trunks, he marched forward with confidence, unleashing a torrent of punches that immediately caught Lopez off guard. What stood out wasn't just the power behind the shots, it was the speed. For a man of his size, Ruiz moved his hands with shocking quickness. His jab snapped forward sharply, setting up a devastating right hand that crashed through Lopez's defense. Within moments, Lopez found himself overwhelmed, absorbing punch after punch with little ability to respond. The referee watched closely as Ruiz continued his relentless assault. Then the end came quickly. A crushing combination forced the referee to step in, stopping the fight and giving Ruiz a decisive early victory. It was the kind of performance that made observers take notice. Not because Ruiz looked intimidating, but because once he started punching, the results spoke for themselves. Another opponent soon stepped forward, Francisco Diaz. Like many early career challengers, Diaz hoped to derail the young prospect before he could gain momentum. Ruiz, however, had different plans. From the opening bell, Ruiz advanced methodically behind his jab. The moment Diaz hesitated, Ruiz unleashed a powerful right hand that landed flush. Diaz staggered, his balance compromised as Ruiz sensed opportunity. Moments later, a vicious left hook sent Diaz crashing to the canvas. The crowd erupted as Diaz struggled to rise, clearly shaken. When the action resumed, Ruiz wasted no time finishing what he started. A brutal combination, hook, uppercut, and right hand, slammed into Diaz's defenses with terrifying force. The referee didn't bother counting. The fight was over. With every bout, Ruiz was proving the same point again and again. His appearance meant nothing once the punches started flying. As his record grew, so did the quality of his opposition. Kelsey Arnold stepped into the ring hoping to challenge the young heavyweight's rising momentum. By this stage, Ruiz was beginning to settle into his rhythm as a professional fighter. He stalked Arnold patiently, mixing body shots with heavy punches upstairs. A sharp uppercut snapped Arnold's head back. Moments later, a powerful right hand followed by another brutal combination left Arnold visibly shaken. Blood began to trickle from his nose as Ruiz continued pressing forward. Arnold attempted to hang on, but Ruiz's pressure was relentless. Round after round, the punishment mounted until the referee finally stepped in to stop the fight. Another victory. Another statement. But not every fight would be a quick knockout. Alvaro Morales brought something different to the ring: sheer size. Weighing nearly 300 pounds, Morales entered the bout with a significant weight advantage. On the surface, he looked like the more imposing fighter. But boxing has never been about who looks bigger. The fight stretched the full 6 rounds, forcing Ruiz to demonstrate patience and ring IQ rather than raw power. Morales proved durable, absorbing punches and surviving the distance. Yet even without a knockout, Ruiz controlled the fight from start to finish. For a young fighter still developing his craft, bouts like these were invaluable. They taught him how to adapt, how to stay disciplined, how to win even when the knockout didn't come easily. Then came Carl Davis. This time, Ruiz didn't need 6 rounds. The moment the fight began, Ruiz launched forward with a crushing right hand followed instantly by a devastating left. Davis collapsed to the canvas almost immediately. The referee barely had time to react before the fight was over. It was a brutal demonstration of Ruiz's explosive finishing ability. By now, the boxing world was starting to pay attention. Fight after fight, Ruiz continued stacking victories. Angel Herrera tried to test him. Elijah McCall entered the ring with a respectable record. Matthew Greer hoped to survive the storm. But the results were the same. Ruiz's hands moved like lightning. Hooks crashed against ribs. Uppercuts split guards. Right hands landed with frightening precision. Opponents staggered. Some tried to hold. Others tried to run. But Ruiz kept coming. Against Matthew Greer, the damage came fast and mercilessly. A crushing body shot dropped Greer early, forcing a standing count. When the fight resumed, Ruiz went right back to work. Another powerful shot sent Greer down again. Moments later, a brutal right hand sealed the fight. 3 knockdowns in 1 round. Another knockout added to the growing highlight reel. Yet perhaps the most impressive aspect of Ruiz's fighting style wasn't simply power, it was speed. Commentators frequently noted that Ruiz possessed some of the fastest hands in the heavyweight division. Despite his bulky frame, his combinations came in rapid bursts, leaving opponents stunned by how quickly the punches arrived. 8-punch combinations. Lightning-fast hooks. Short right hands that exploded off his shoulder. The more Ruiz fought, the clearer it became. He wasn't just a slugger. He was a boxer. Eventually, his rising reputation led him to face his biggest test yet, an undefeated heavyweight named Joe Hanks. With a perfect 21-0 record, Hanks represented a serious challenge, the kind of fight that could reveal whether Ruiz was truly ready for the next level. From the opening bell, Ruiz looked fearless. A sharp right hand caught Hanks early, forcing him backward. Another right hand followed. Then, a combination. Hanks tried to respond, but Ruiz's pressure never relented. Then it happened. A thunderous left hook detonated against Hanks' jaw, sending him crashing to the canvas. The crowd gasped as he struggled to rise, barely beating the count. But Ruiz was already closing in. Moments later, another crushing punch dropped Hanks again. This time, the referee waved it off. It was the biggest win of Ruiz's career so far, a statement that he belonged among the division's serious contenders. Another challenge soon followed in the form of Tor Hamer, a seasoned fighter with over 20 victories. Yet even this test ended abruptly when Hamer, battered and overwhelmed, chose not to continue. The message was clear. Andy Ruiz Jr. was no longer just a promising prospect. He was a legitimate force in the heavyweight division. And eventually, the moment would come that changed everything. A fight against one of the most dominant champions in the world, a towering, undefeated superstar named Anthony Joshua. The odds were stacked heavily against Ruiz. To most observers, he was just a last-minute replacement. An underdog with the wrong body type and the wrong style to threaten the reigning champion. But once again, appearances proved deceiving. Ruiz stepped into the ring and shocked the world. With blistering hand speed and fearless aggression, he dismantled Joshua in one of the most stunning upsets in boxing history. Knockdowns piled up as the champion struggled to keep pace with Ruiz's relentless combinations. By the time it was over, the unthinkable had happened. Andy Ruiz Jr. stood as the heavyweight champion of the world, the first of Mexican descent to ever accomplish that feat. It was the culmination of years of quiet determination, proof that heart, skill, and perseverance can overcome any stereotype. Though his career would later slow after a lucrative rematch and financial success, Ruiz's legacy was already secured. That night against Anthony Joshua had etched his name permanently into boxing history. The unassuming fighter with the soft frame and lightning-fast hands had become a symbol of the sport's greatest truth. You can never judge a fighter by how they look. Because in boxing, it only takes one punch to change everything. And Andy Ruiz Jr. built an entire career proving exactly that. Now we want to hear from you. Where do you rank Andy Ruiz Jr.'s shocking victory over Anthony Joshua among the greatest upsets in boxing history? Do you think Ruiz still has what it takes to make another run at the heavyweight title? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into boxing history, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another fight story.